We're all arguing over whether or not Charlie Kirk was a good guy or whether or not Jimmy Kimmel should have been pulled off the air. We're not arguing about the fact that there are 10 companies running everything and fucking over the rest of us. But the power and the control is what keeps the money coming in. Because if all of us actually banded together and rose up against the very few billionaires that are causing all of this, or at least making it possible for us to live this way, it would be a quick turnaround, right? Like if we realized who the real bad guy is here, it would be a very different world rather than the one where we're sitting here arguing about whose idea about, Charlie Kirk or Jimmy Kimmel is right. This is Robots. We're the podcast that tries to help you use AI and technology to safely manage your mental health, your well-being, all of the things that we're trying to manage on a day-to-day basis. And this is going to be a tough conversation. This is going to be hard because there's some lines that we want to walk here to make sure that we don't mischaracterize any part of this. But obviously, we're talking about what everybody's talking about, the death of Charlie Kirk and the blowback that has followed since then. Goes without saying, I almost didn't even want to say this, but it goes without saying that this is a horrible tragedy that nobody should ever stand for. This should not happen to anybody. I don't care what kind of a piece of shit you are. You shouldn't be gunned down for your ideas. There, we've done the disclaimer. Now we can have the conversation. So this is tough because I completely disagree with pretty much everything I ever heard fall out of his mouth. The only thing I respect about Charlie Kirk is the way that he took on his issues face to face and took his debate out in public and challenged people's ideas. I think we need more of that. You even made a statement on the show, Jason, recently about maybe more and more people need to be afraid of being punched in the mouth for saying something stupid, right? Because we all hide behind our keyboards and we all get into these wars online.
Yeah.
But they escalate.
Exactly. And we're super brave when we're at a distance and people can't touch us. But when we're up close and personal, we tend to back away from our opinions, or we tend to be less vitriolic in what we say. And yeah, I do think that's the line. Like being punched in the face, that's a level of violence that, is not super acceptable, but
is rational, is understandable.
Right.
Like you can wrap your head around that.
Yeah. The founding fathers did that, right? They would get into fistfights and they'd get into arguments and they'd go back and forth, but they wouldn't fucking shoot each other. Like when they would get to the point where we have irreconcilable differences, they wouldn't stand at a distance and assassinate each other. They'd get pistols and do a fucking duel.
That's right.
And it was straight
up.
There
was no hiding. It was face to face. May the best man win.
Right. It wasn't a cowardly act from a distance.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, snipering somebody from 200 yards away, at an elevated position on a college campus, that's cowardice.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up. And that's not okay. And we have to look. Yeah, so good.
I was going to say, and the reaction to it as well, right? We're now in a few days in the wake of the Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air. He's one of a number of TV commentators who are now axed because they said something that made, Mr. Grumpy Pants unhappy, and he wanted something done about it. So this just continues to spread in awful ways. And so much of it comes back to things that you and I have been saying here for months, things I've been saying on this show for years. And there's a couple of instances I want to share. And one, actually, ironically, is from Facebook. And it is somebody who shared a conversation that someone else shared and they just reshared it. Yeah. But it so brilliantly highlighted what I think is a huge root of this problem. And it basically describes two different points of view about who Charlie Kirk was based on people's algorithm. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of this. Stop me when it gets boring. But it says, one thing that has become really clear since yesterday is that we live in at least two different realities. Talking to a friend who only knew Charlie as a Christian motivational speaker because that's all that ever came across her feed. They showed me videos I'd never seen of him saying perfectly reasonable and empowering things. I showed her videos she'd never seen before of his racism, misogyny, homophobia, advocating for violence against specific groups of people. She was horrified by his remarks about Nancy Pelosi's husband's attacker being bailed out and celebrated for his violent act. She was horrified by the number of things he'd said, but she had never seen them or heard them before. the same as I had never heard or seen the generalized clips of him sounding like a personally nice, like a perfectly nice, loving man and father. Neither of us had the whole picture of this man. I mentioned he was a known white supremacist, and she thought I was joking. She talked about him giving a speech about finding your purpose and doing good in the world, and I thought she was joking. I saw why this friend was mourning the loss of a person she thought was a good person. My friend, bless her, saw why I feel the way I do about him. We understood each other better in spite of a billion-dollar internet machine specifically focused on keeping us apart because we talked to each other with the desire to listen and learn rather than the desire to change someone else's mind or be right. I mean, that's it. That's it in a nutshell, right?
The very salient point in that is that Charlie Kirk was a people. And people, as individuals, persons, are not entirely good and are not entirely bad.
Yeah.
You can find fault in Mother Teresa. You can find fault all over the place. Like, we're not perfect.
Right.
And thinking that we are is foolish. But we're also not entirely evil. Like, and unworthy of sympathy and empathy. There is so much to unpack in that statement, because the way that most of us consume information these days is via a few media sources. Those media sources are being consolidated. Most of them are being consolidated towards the right now, and they've gone through their own path of being consolidated by the left. And really what they're being consolidated to is people with money. And we have to stop thinking about media in terms of political left and political right. We have to start thinking about media by the people that are motivated to make money off of it, which is what they're doing. Like, they're not doing it for the public good. And the FCC coming out and saying that we're going to revoke ABC's licenses if they don't do something about Jimmy Kimmel is government censorship.
Yep.
This is not cancel culture.
Yep.
This is government censorship. This is against the Constitution. It should
be
against the law.
Different than internet outrage about somebody who said something stupid. This is somebody who made a joke that made, what do they call him? Tangerine Palpatine, made him very upset. And so they had to do something about it.
Right. And it's, look, the fact that the right is getting upset about this at a level where they're like, cancel everybody, fuck this. If you don't, if you say anything negative against people that we like and love, we're going to cancel you. This is exactly what they were complaining that the left was doing to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this blade cuts both ways. And there are definitely people on the right that are standing up and saying, no, this is not okay. Like Fox News, people on Fox News are saying this. Like, cancel culture should not be a thing, because the next party that comes into power could cancel us. Whether or not we have another election is still up for debate.
There is that. Yes, exactly.
But this feels very, very much so like stories I've heard of authoritarians and dictators coming in and forcing propaganda and messages to be scripted a certain way, which is exactly what the right was accusing the left of. But I've never seen the left make the threat that we're going to cancel Fox's licenses from
despite a loud chorus of the left saying cancel their license. Like, what they're doing is not good. What they're doing is harmful. Like, they are pressured by the population to do that, and they're like, no, because we understand that when the shoe is on the other foot, we would be screwed. We know better. But that's kind of, I mean, and I don't mean for this to get political, and that's what I was afraid of. But it is the actions of someone who is behaving as though they aren't going anywhere.
Right.
Like they are intending to make rules as though they don't ever have to worry about blowback from those decisions.
Yeah.
So that's at the risk of getting political, I want to step back a little bit more and talk a little bit more about the perpetrators of this violence and the information that tends to lead to the actions of assassinating somebody you disagree with.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I'm a fan of. His name is Scott Galloway. He was on CNN just within a couple of days of the shooting. And really, in this few minutes, articulated something that we have been saying here for a long time. And I wanted to just share this quick conversation that he had with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
Whether it's a watershed moment or not, I think is a function of if it results in a tangible action. And I would argue you need to diagnose the problem kind of honestly and openly before you can move to solutions. But I see the problem as having kind of three legs of the stool here. The first is that our economy is basically, our stock market's being driven by 10 companies who are in the business of trafficking attention and have figured out, their algorithms have figured out that we used to think sex sells. What we found is something better, and that is rage. And these algorithms have figured out that the best way to get engagement and more Nissan ads is to figure out your political leanings and then take you as far as they can, tweet by tweet or reel by reel or TikTok by TikTok, to an extreme. And now that Americans get two-thirds of Americans get their news from social media, the temperature has just gone up. And I would ask all of us to do what Darth Vader suggested and search your feelings. You know this to be true. The second thing is, we have young men in this country who have a lack of opportunities, whose prefrontal cortex doesn't catch up to a woman's until he's 25, are sequestering from society, and are up against the deepest pocketed, most talented companies in the world with godlike technology, trying to convince them they can have a reasonable facsimile of life on a screen with an algorithm. The result is they're sequestering from relationships and guardrails. You have literally the amount of time young men are spending with their friends has been cut in half. They're not attaching to work. They're not attaching to school. They're not attaching to relationships. And they're increasingly vulnerable to be radicalized online. And then the third thing, and it's boring, but there's just no getting around it. I'm in London right now. Over the next 12 months, there will be 30 people killed by guns in the UK. Since Charlie was assassinated yesterday, there's likely been about 120 deaths just in the US from gun deaths.
It doesn't, I mean, I agree with your, your bleak assessment of all the legs of the stool on this, but there's not a lot of off-ramps there. I mean, there's the financial incentives for these companies are not changing at all. There's no call for regulation, really. Individuals, families are waking up and trying not to have phones in schools, but even that's a struggle for a lot of families. I mean, the phrases engraved on shell casings, apparently discovered by investigators, references to video game memes and an internet message board. And you have like social media influencers on the right, and I haven't, the ones I've seen have been on the right, but I'm sure there's outrage on the left and people calling for talking about war.
Yeah, I do. I think I'm a little bit more hopeful and not as bereft, and I would argue that we need to be hopeful. And there are specific solutions around social media. Remove 230 protections for algorithmically elevated content, such that if your company is not putting in safeguards and a young man enters into a relationship with a character AI, and he or she is under the age of 18 and decides to kill themselves at the urging or at least the approval of that character AI, the company who has elevated that content is liable. A certain amount of antitrust to make things more competitive. There's a lot. Think about the rents these companies are charging.
But all those guys are having dinner with the president in Washington. I mean, there's no appetite for regulation.
But you had mentioned phones. My colleague, Jonathan Haidt, is getting phones banned in, I think it's 19 states now. And we have never seen an acceleration in test scores like we've seen over the last 12 months because we are banning phones in schools. We age gate pornography, the military, and cigarettes, but we don't age gate social media. In my view, there's no reason that anyone under the age of 16, maybe even 18, should be on social media. Mark Benioff compared social media to cigarettes, but 17-year-olds don't pick up a pack of Marlboros, smoke them, and then get radicalized. There is evidence showing that social media's impact on young girls leads them to self-harm, and its impact on men is also mostly self-harm, but also external. They can start harming others. And to be clear, the majority of young men, I don't want to pathologize them, are not going to pick up a gun. But I absolutely think there is regulation and there are things that can be done. We need to get more people, specifically more male role models and more economic opportunity presented to young men who are 4 times more likely to kill themselves, 3 times more likely to be addicted, and 12 times more likely to be incarcerated. There are absolutely common sense solutions here to address some of these things. And the illusion of complexity is weaponized by the incumbents. It's weaponized by big tech, who doesn't want to take responsibility for common sense solutions. It's weaponized by the incumbents, whether it's the NRA. We fall into this illusion that it's a democracy. It's not. The passive majority has bested by special interest groups that are well organized and well funded, as evidenced by the gun lobby and the tech lobby that seems to be dining with the president every other week. But no, resist. There is an opportunity here to change things. So is this a watershed event? We'll see.
Scott Galloway, thank you.
First comment. In the US, corporations are people. Because they're people, they're given the inalienable rights of people.
Yep.
Also, the top 10 companies are NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, which is Google, Amazon, Meta/Facebook, Broadcom, Saudi Aramco, Tesla, and TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor. The top 10 companies, of those, the only ones that aren't making money directly off of computational metrics is Saudi Aramco. Everyone else is making money off of these processing functions. And for those of you saying, Tesla, no, that's not what's happening, you bet your ass it is. You bet your ass that those cars are giant walking, traveling computers and are collecting huge amounts of metadata, watching people's track and flow. And if you think Tesla is only involved in this, remember that Tesla funds the rest of Musk's projects. These people aren't your friends. They don't have your best interest at heart. You are the product for them. You make them money. And they make their money by bifurcating you and putting you into classifications that are easy to market to. And the best way to do that is to control your information feed and only give you bits of information that make it plausible for you to believe and amplify whatever preconceived biases and notions they think you have. And if you don't have those biases already because you're clean, keep watching that shit for another 10 weeks and you will, because they will figure it out.
I was going to share a little perspective I had on that. I haven't gone down the path of political radicalization thanks to the internet, but I did have an experience a few years ago when attempting to grow this podcast in its previous form. Some advice I was given was to, in order to grow the podcast, go into these social media groups, go into these places where your potential listener is hanging out, help them, offer them advice, do it, and become online friends with them. They discover your podcast grows because they had this personal connection with you. So as a show focused on men's mental health, I found myself spending a lot of time in a lot of groups where a lot of really miserable, sad fucking men just wanted to vent. They didn't want help. And, day after day, these 10, 15-minute sessions that I would spend really started to erode my own mental health, because I was just going like, these guys, like, I'm trying to help these guys and they're all just these sad fucking sacks that didn't want help. They just wanted to be heard. And it fucked with me, like in bad ways. Like, my mental health was probably at the lowest it's ever been because I was spending so much time with people whose mental health was so emotionally fucked up that's the only place they felt they had to go to get help. So pivot that to, I don't have a community, I don't have connection, I don't belong anywhere. You find yourself in a political debate with somebody else suddenly makes a little bit of sense. They share a group with you that you take part in, you join that group, and that just opens up the pathway to deeper and deeper rabbit holes that ultimately lead to these radicalized behaviors where you're suddenly feeling like it makes completely rational sense to go murder somebody because they said something you don't like. That's how it works.
Yep.
Now, the thing I want to ask you about, I know you have a lot of experience in dealing with bots, because that's the other part about this that people don't talk enough about, is that all those people you're fighting with or agreeing with or having conversations with online, they ain't people. And if you saw the latest Superman movie, the interpretation of it as monkeys in space was fucking fantastic. But you've done a lot of work to try to prevent bots from doing what bots do. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So more than half the traffic on the internet's bots. And I've worked at several companies building web application firewalls. And RSA, one of the big security conferences out there, probably the biggest security one, which happens every year in the Bay Area, their topic the last 2-3 years for their main stages have revolved a lot around preventing bots. And there's different kinds of bots. There's good bots, things that are out there trying to do good things, trying to index information for easier searching. Their intent is not to harm. There's bad bots whose intent is to harm and to take things down or to grab information or to do things they're not supposed to do. And then you have this other category of just poorly configured, costly bots. So you might have good bots, but they cost website owners a lot of money, or they cost companies a lot of money because they're too aggressive, or they do something, they're misconfigured to do something bad. And then you also have bad bots that aren't expensive to let run and do their thing.
What about the bro bots? What do you do about the bro bots?
It's a good question. I would say the bro bots are in the upper left-hand quadrant of the good and inexpensive. Because if any of you are paying extra money for this podcast, we're fucking up because we're not getting any money from it.
We aren't getting any of it. So yeah.
Right. But if you look at that, the companies that actually are responsible for the most bots are these top 10. I mean, it's Microsoft. It's Apple, it's Alphabet, it's Amazon, it's definitely Facebook. I mean, when you look at the people that are actually generating traffic to go through and feed their AI ML models, it's these folks. On top of that, companies actually make money. Like, you have more than a few state actors going out there doing things that are relatively free for them, where they create their own version of chatbots that scrape and look at content that's going across the internet and find ways to provide outrage messages to those pieces, because they're trying to amplify outrage and anger. It's good economically to do this because it gets people fired up and keeps them more engaged. There's no doubt about that. And we talk about these things like, you hear a lot about the mainstream media being a problem. And your mainstream media are basically your three commonly found broadcast channels. It's ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. In the Seattle area, it's Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 13. And there's other ones like the CW and other pieces, but they don't do anything for media. PBS used to kind of be called mainstream media, but it's not. It was public broadcasting. You have to get down to company number, let me see here. Oh, I'm still going. I'm in the 50s.
As someone who spent 20 years in radio, I can tell you the media money is not really there.
I'm in the 70s. Okay. I get down to the Walt Disney Corporation at spot number 79 at $204 billion of market cap. Mm. In contrast, the real media companies, the ones actually doing real money things, they have market caps of let's see, Microsoft 3.85 trillion, Google 3 trillion, Amazon 2.5 trillion, Facebook almost 2 trillion. It's not even close. These are orders of magnitude more than the mainstream media. They make way more money, they do way more things, and their broadcast media coming over the airwaves is not a fucking thing anymore. If you look at it, yes, you can still get broadcast media sent to your house. You can put up a high definition antenna and you might be able to pick up some channels, but almost all of them don't spend any money on critical range addressing, and they force you to go through a cable operator and look at these things online. So these companies really are not broadcast mainstream media. If you look at the newspapers, the companies that own newspapers are in this. Most of these are billionaires that own those newspapers. I remember back in the day, everyone was worried that Knight Ridder was going to consolidate all these media sources and try to have one homogenistic voice back in the 90s. It was one of the theses for my senior project when I was in college.
Yeah.
That shit doesn't matter anymore.
No.
Nobody gives a fuck. People don't read newspapers. My wife loves to read newspapers. We get the Seattle Times every Sunday. Do you know the last time it got out of that plastic rain bag and actually got opened up and it wouldn't just get tossed in the garbage on Tuesday or Thursday was?
Right.
Been a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Not because we don't enjoy opening up the paper and holding it in our hands, but the convenience of having these things fed to you and pushed to you is just too high. Yeah. Why am I going to spend more cycles and time going deep on these kinds of stories when I can just dummy box this thing right on my screen right in front
Well,
of me.
and who's going to read the 3-page article in the paper when there is a nice 4-paragraph summary from somebody's perspective that is just fed to you while you sit there drinking your coffee on your couch with the phone staring you in the face?
Yes. Now imagine you're 20-something. Like, you've probably never picked up a fucking newspaper in your life. Or if you have, it's been for like nostalgic reasons. It's because your parents told you to go get
it's because it's homework that you were told to make a vision board of some sort.
Yeah, exactly.
And
more
then
than
you're
likely,
like, what? These exist? Why? That's ridiculous.
and more than likely, you printed it off on your computer and didn't actually get a newspaper or actually go to the library and look at microfilm reels. Like, it's just not practical. We've changed the way that we consume media. And if people want to come back and say, Fox News is the problem, CNN's the problem, MSNBC is the problem. Bullshit. Like, at any given point in time, collectively, they don't have more than 5% of the viewing audience. If you look at the ratings on them, like, they're just not there.
Well, also, as someone who spent 20 years in the media, the fallacy that there is some, somebody sitting in an office somewhere dictating all of the content that must be fed through all of these channels is just not real. It's just not a thing. I've worked in enough newsrooms to know that's not a thing. I will say, when I did work for one company, Sinclair Broadcast Group, by the way, that is the only company I ever worked with that mandated content to be fed across all of their affiliates, conservative, hard right propaganda that we are required to play, and people lost their jobs because they resisted. I never heard that shit coming from the left. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I spent enough time there to know if it did, I would have heard it. If somebody listening to this or watching this knows of something, please educate me, because I would love to see it. Well, but that shit is unacceptable.
And I will say that there have been lawsuits at Washington Post, at New York Times, at multiple different print outlets by conservative editors or conservative writers, where they've come back and they said, my way of presenting this or my way of structuring this editorial content was taken down or removed, or I was fired because I was making opinions. So I think it does happen on both sides.
I mean, I'm sure it does.
Not to the same degree.
Right. I think there's a difference between I'm an individual contributor and my voice is being silenced versus we are the company mandating that everyone share this content. There's a very distinct difference there.
Well, okay. If the effect is the same, though, if the effect is the same, that it's editorializing content for a particular bent, whether it be more conservative or more progressive, I think those things still happen. And sure. I definitely think that Hollywood and the people that produce content for entertainment purposes tend to skew more left than right, but not entirely, right? Like, there definitely does tend to be a narrative that gets put in from Hollywood by the people that produce content to try to make things look and feel a certain way. Like,
of course,
we've seen the scope of like military dramas change, of police dramas change. Like, they're definitely more progressive in the way that they talk about things. Like, they definitely present things and from that perspective, they try to be holistic and they try to be more inclusive compared to what they were 20 years ago. Like, we just watched Starship Troopers. My kids were watching it downstairs. My daughter's boyfriend had not seen it before, and they're like, we're going to watch Starship Troopers.
It's fantastic.
It is, but it's a total war propaganda film, right? Like, and it's this thing where it's human fascists against bugs, because we've decided to take fascism out to the universe and not just keep within the local country. But the nice part is that humans were all unified, and there were men and women and minorities all fighting against the bad enemy.
That's right.
In other words, we are highly, highly susceptible to having our minds changed by signal inundation.
Yeah.
And the more signals you have coming towards you, the more you're going to be affected by this. At the same time, you can program automation in such a way to amplify negative signals or positive signals however you want. And understanding the intent of those pieces is not particularly difficult. And creating fake Facebook accounts is super easy. And Facebook does not at all want to stop this from happening. It's how they make their money. They are not incentivized one bit to make this change. Neither is TikTok. Neither is Google /YouTube. None of these big podcasts are set up that way. Apple makes their money reselling multiple different layers of these pieces and creating their own content. I mean, Amazon's in so many, has their finger in so many cookie jars that, you know, there's no way that they're not making money from it. They have their own ad tech platform. They have their own LLMs and machine learning systems. Like, these are all there. And then your chip manufacturers, your NVIDIA, your Broadcom, your TSMC, like all these places make money off of trying to crunch data at large volumes inside their data centers. And, you know, and Oracle is like hugely on the rise right now. Larry Ellison's son now owns CBS. Oracle, Larry Ellison is not known for being super progressive, but honestly, he's not known for being super political either. Like, he tries to figure out a way to make money, because it's not about politics, it's about deregulation, and it's about getting access to turn people's dollars out.
But I think that's something that is interesting, because it's not just money. Like, the political impact is also very, very strong, because if you talk about the fact that we're all arguing over whether or not Charlie Kirk was a good guy, or whether or not Jimmy Kimmel should have been pulled off the air, we're not arguing about the fact that there are 10 companies running everything and fucking over the rest of us. And that's like, okay, the money's great, but the power and the control is what keeps the money coming in. Because if all of us actually banded together and rose up against the very few billionaires that are causing all of this, or at least making it possible for us to live this way, it would be a quick turnaround, right? Like, if we realized who the real bad guy is here, it would be a very different world, rather than the one where we're sitting here arguing about whose idea about, you know, Charlie Kirk or Jimmy Kimmel is right.
Yeah, I mean, as of 2024, there are 813 billionaires in the U.S. 813 people, and if you just collect them all and turn them into a monolith and keep them as one group and say, these 813 people are the ones doing these things, we need to get rid of these 813 people. That's not the answer.
No, that's not the answer.
Because there are a few millionaires. I mean, how many US... I'm just Googling this live. There are almost 22 million millionaires in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you that those people are more than willing to step up and take over the jobs of those billionaires, because we want a money.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you solve this problem is you get money out of the public good and stop deciding that you're going to have capitalism be the driving force. Not just capitalism. It's not capitalism. I mean, we're not a free market capitalist society in the US or in the West at all. We're at best a representational socialist, democratic socialist company or country in some regard. Like, we socialize losses, we privatize profits, we have socialized medicine in some regards, we have socialized roads, socialized school systems, but we change who gets what and who has to pay for what depending on their economic prowess and upon whether or not you can get lobbyists to go in. And look, we started this conversation off about radicalism in these pieces, and we're talking about the motivation of folks, of why it is that these companies are not going to make these changes. Really, I think what we should be talking about is the Simpsons episode where the ad tech piece was in there, or not the ad tech, the ad company was in there, and they're singing the song, "Just don't look, just don't look, and you'll kill the marketing items." I mean, you have Lard Lad there with the giant donut holding this thing up, walking through places. Like, yeah, you have to just not look. Like, if you do things that aren't going to make them money, then you're no longer a profit target for them, and they have a hard time sending stuff to you. I don't want to set myself out as the golden example of this, but my Facebook feed is 90% cat videos and like surfing clips these days. Mm-hmm. And every now and again, I'll get a pop up for like some probiotic or testosterone health or hair loss health, because they know how old I am, and these are like common things, right? Every now and again, like, I get, I guess, bro culture stuff thrown at me.
Oh yeah,
where it's like, you should be shooting guns and you should be hunting and you should be doing this and this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like, I've done that shit, I get it, but like, no, I don't need that, and I skip over that ad. I give it no airtime, and they've tuned the algorithm to figure out a way to make me profitable, because I don't really cleanly fit into any of these categories. That being said, I'm sure that when they have my profile in place and they're saying, hey, do you want to market to this person and push those things across? Companies are probably getting more discerning as to which demographic bucket I fall into, because I do have a discerning way of tuning my algorithm.
Mm.
Now, if I go on to Blue Sky or X, like it just goes white male 50 and like barfs all of it on me.
Yeah.
Instagram is not much different. Like there are certain people I follow on Instagram, but I get ads on Instagram, which is fucking owned by Facebook. You would think they'd share the same algorithm. And
Right.
I don't look at it at all because I don't have enough track record and history to look at my wife's and my kids' stuff. I don't tend to scroll through.
Right.
So its algorithm does not have as much information on me. So it's still trying to figure out kind of who I am. But in the figuring out who I am phase, it's test marketing and throwing shit at me that it thinks I might like. And almost all of it is a variation of bro culture or right-wing propaganda. And they're not doing it to help me. They're not doing it to bring me better content that I will like. They're doing it to sell me ads and capture my eyes. That's what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I'm 50, so radicalizing me is going to be hard because I'm old, fat, and lazy. A teenager or a 20-something, they've got energy, they've got time, and they feel depressed because it feels like there's no future. The economy's busted. There's very little economic opportunity for them. AI is coming in and taking over things. If you don't fall into the cisgender white, like, kind of bucket of things as a man, and most of the media sources have decided that they want to go after you in this way. And I mean, they're definitely, there's a bigger prevalence, right? Like getting kids to be outraged by telling them that they're not part of the community or what they're doing is wrong, and then amplifying that signal with negative messages coming from other people to create more outrage. And then these bots that go through and amplify that message even more and put even more hysterically outrageous shitty things that they say to try to get people more and more riled up. This is a recipe for disaster, because we are telling people that are part of groups and tribes that are not fully mentally developed, that don't have all the mental regulation that's actually required to work in this space, that, you know, don't get upset about these things, don't get radicalized, don't get pushed in this direction when it's their main information source is unrealistic.
Well, and also they're young people that are lost. They feel alone. They feel ashamed because of it. They don't know where their people are, so they go more and more inward. They become more and more isolated, which then they still crave connection. So then they reach out through social media, and then they become immediate targets that this very propaganda that you're talking about is targeted for. It's trying to reach that lost young man and push him in a certain direction.
Well, and I think it's more nefarious than that. So I actually think when these people go through and they start looking for things that are part of counterculture, Facebook provides it. The social media sources provide it. It's like, oh, well, look at this group, follow these things, push these things in this direction. And then what you get is you get other companies out there and state actors going through and saying, well, let's destabilize things a bit more. And let's actually join these groups and pretend like we're part of this, or just fuck with people to try to make these things more difficult and painful, because it amplifies the outrage. Yeah. It amplifies the distrust and the hatred and the otherification of people out there. And we're all people. We're all persons. We're all flawed in all kinds of different ways. And one group saying these people shouldn't exist is no worse than any other group saying these people shouldn't exist. Saying it is one thing. Taking action and doing things to make those people not exist, that's that next step. And when you look at the body politic and the removal of voices and the removal of opinions and literally the physical removal of people in the US at the moment, there is plenty of reason to think that at any given point in time, you could be targeted. And the fear is not unfounded. So you've got this convergence of these different pieces occurring right now, and it's scaring folks. And the media outrage machine is leaning into that. And keep in mind, It's not the mainstream media that's the problem. It's fucking social media. And I look, I've still got a Meta account. I still use Facebook. I still use Instagram. I've got an X account, which I fucking hate. I refuse to have a TikTok account. I've got a Blue Sky account. Like I've got 40 other pieces. I mean, I started a fucking social media company like 8-9 years ago to try to get it moving. This is the things that we deal with and the things that we have to be looking at. What I do think needs to occur is I think these social media companies, there needs to be a way for people to have other folks validated that what they're saying, that these are real people, not just bots. Facebook could do all of that, but they're not doing it because it's expensive, it's difficult, it eats into the profit
and it
margins.
hurts exactly what they're trying to do. I mean,
exactly. It doesn't allow people to be as outraged, so they don't get as much money. Yeah.
And there is, as we heard earlier, there is no appetite in DC for regulation on any.
No. I mean, the fact that we've just deregulated AI for the next 10 years with no strict controls. How are we going to deal with all this? And the real thing is, we have to stop being assholes. And it's real hard to stop being an asshole when all you're seeing is messages coming from assholes. Like, to put it in really clear vernacular, when your entire mental space is occupied by the farts of shitty assholes, your breath might start to stink when you speak.
It's like we said, with no threat of getting punched in the mouth or having to smell a shitty asshole,
right.
You're going to keep being an asshole.
And don't assume that you're not an asshole. Like, you fucking are. Like, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. It's okay to be that. You don't deserve to be shot for that.
Yep.
You don't deserve to be killed for that. That's just fucking wrong.
Yep.
Punch in the face is a different story. Yeah. But
and I just, because this is setting off an alarm bell in my head, I want to make sure we're clear about this. And we were talking about the class, war, big air quotes, between, the billionaires and the rest of us. No one here is calling for the death of billionaires.
No, not at all.
I'm just suggesting that maybe some of their money could be better spent in other ways and perhaps shared a little bit more evenly. But that's not for me to decide.
Or we have better regulations that actually have the people in mind and not the profits of corporations.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that our body politic and the way that we make laws and make decisions are not happening in the people's best interest. They're happening in corporations' best interest. And don't buy into the concept that one side does this and the other side doesn't.
Right.
Because they both do. Like, they both take money from lobbyists. They both take money from special interests. Certainly one side that's in power right now seems to be doing it a lot more than anyone's ever done in modern history from the time that we've been taking data. Like, the last time that we were in this kind of economic issue with the ruling elite having such different barriers was just before we went into the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coincidence? I don't know. We're going to find out.
The last point I'll make on this is just that, you talked about don't look, right? Just don't give them the attention. I've had this now multiple times in real life where I have been surrounded by people that I do not politically agree with, that if we were on Facebook, the conversation would be one I would not engage in because it's not beneficial. But I was in shared space with a lot of people that see the world very differently than I do.
Yeah.
And we never once talked about it. What we talked about was how we're doing, how our health is, how our family is, how our kids are doing, how they're doing in school, how work's going, fun things they're working on. And it was fucking lovely to be able to share space with people that see the world differently than me. But at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We want a safe place to raise our kids. We want to make a decent wage. We want to be able to buy a house and have some financial security. I mean, that's all we really want. We used to just argue about the best way to get there. But now we argue about stupid shit that doesn't even matter. So I bring this up just to, again, point out, just put the fucking thing down and go talk to people in real life. It's just such a different reality than the one you're experiencing online.
I have one comment to make here, then I'll shut up. We can end the show. So we have turned minor grievances into existential problems of good versus evil.
Yep.
And my wife was a kindergarten paraeducator for a while. And one of the things they teach kindergartners is how to react to problems. Is your reaction comparable to the size of the problem? We have to remember that Facebook is the kindergarten playground. This is not where we're going out there and being our best selves and our best adult-like people. We're dealing with a bunch of emotional limbic system pieces that are going out, and we're treating everything like an existential crisis.
Yeah.
And there are several books about this, and the world religions didn't have this problem until about 2,000 years ago, with the rise of Christianity and creating this idea that there are cosmic goods and cosmic evils that are at war with each other, amplifies these pieces and stops letting us look at each other as being human beings that are both good and bad. And if we don't start thinking about each other as holistic, real people that maybe have bad ideas, that have maybe done some bad things, but actually are still good at some level and worthy of respect, this is going to get worse. It's going to get a lot fucking worse. And I don't want that to happen. Look, I break the country up. Okay, great. I get that. You want to have a civil war. That sounds miserable and awful. I don't want to do that. No one's going to come out as a winner on this.
Nope.
And the reality is like you said, there are many people and many friends that I have that are on a different side of the political spectrum who I have lovely conversations about sports, about food, go out to dinner with them, have beers with them. And when politics comes up, we actually sit there and listen to each other and try to understand. Yep. And we'll say shit. We're like, you're full of shit. Here's why. And we'll give each other grief because we have the social dynamic and the context built around that, where we can act like adults with each other and not in the fucking kindergarten playground that is the internet.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Real life. That's where
be nice to each other, fuckers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Good talk. That was good stuff. I don't know if that helped anybody. It certainly helped me. I had a lot of that just rolling in my head for days. So
I hope we don't get canceled as a result of this.
Oh well, we're in charge.
Censored.
We work for ourselves, so nobody can cancel us.
Wow. Yeah. We do have
the feed might get suppressed. I suppose that's
we do have other employers though.
That's true. There are other employers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you have found this beneficial in any way, please feel free to share it with somebody. You can do that with the links that are available at our website, brobots.me. That's where you can also sign up for our newsletter, where we sort of recap some of this and give you some action steps to sort of take forward with your life. All of that's available at brobots.me, and that's where the next episode of our little show here will be available in about a week. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
We know this podcast is amazing and it doesn't seem to lack anything, but we need a legal disclaimer. Prior to implementing anything discussed in this podcast, it is your responsibility to conduct your own research and consult your physician. You should assume that these knuckleheads don't know what they're talking about, and they're not liable for any physical or emotional issues that occur directly or indirectly from listening to this podcast.